Consuming it. 5 ingredients that will go into every communication meal: clarity, brevity, context, impact, and value. Okay, great. So we've got our ingredients. Now the next question is, how much of each ingredient do we need? And just like cooking a great meal, that's going to depend. Different meals are going to need different ingredients. They're going to need the ingredients in different proportions. And different audiences are going to have different palates. They're going to want different things out of their meal. So the really savvy communicator is going to look at their row of ingredients and is going to be able to determine, based on the audience that they're preparing their message for, what ingredients need to be dominant. So how do you figure it out? Well, when do we need clarity to be an important ingredient? Well, when there's a lot of complexity around the situation or around the issue, you need to make sure that your message includes plenty of clarity so people understand what this is really about. When do we need a bit of brevity? Well, when time is short, when we think attention spans are short, when your audience is going to be very, very senior, you want to make sure you have enough of the brevity ingredient. How about context? Well, maybe when there's unfamiliarity with the topic, or maybe when you're communicating with people that have a lot on their mind, or are walking in to listen to you, having just come from something very, very confusing. You probably want to make sure you use plenty of the ingredient context. How about impact? When do we need to have a lot of impact in our messaging? Well, when there's a lot of noise, when we really need to work hard to make it memorable, right? When we really want it to stand out, and we think that's going to be hard to achieve. We got to make sure we add plenty of impact. And then the fifth and final is value. And I think when there's skepticism, when there's choice, when there's competition, when a decision has to be made, and there are other choices that could be made, we have to work hard to make sure that there's plenty of value in the meal that we're creating. All 5 of these ingredients are going to be present in every meal that you create, in every communication that you put together. You always want to make sure that you have some clarity and some brevity and some context and some impact and some value. But depending upon who you're cooking for, depending on who you're preparing for, you're going to make choices of which of those ingredients needs to be most dominant. Think about your communication like you're preparing a meal for an audience and you want to impress them. You want them to have a great experience. And different audiences have different palates, which means you have to adjust the ratios of the ingredients depending upon the situation. is good communication in the 21st century? How do we define it? What does it mean? And more importantly, how do we obtain good communication skills in the 21st century? Is it simply good or bad? Are we either good at communicating or not? Or are there levels of good? Are there ways for us to think about our own skill development so that we can build on our skills over time and reach higher levels of good? Confidence and we think there are. 3 levels of communication for you to think about. Professional level, where it's simple and clear and your audience will hear you. Leadership level, where now you're connecting it to your audience and they're more likely to care. And executive level, where you have such a command of the situation that you're much more likely to persuade them to act. 3 levels of communication for you to think about, and a way for you to think about your own skill development over time. Think about first getting to clarity, then causing your audience to care, then being truly persuasive.